Yeah.
So now it's finally the whole chapter is complete and done with.
Yeah.
I'm moving forward. Never again.
Jari, thank you so much for your time today. We're finally here.
Finally.
I'm sure that's how you feel as well. But before we go into that, how are you doing today? How are you feeling?
I'm good. Just doing some life work, you know.
Yeah.
Always something going on with the personal life and stuff. You gotta take care of things. So been doing that.
Yeah. All right. Well, to talk about, life can come with pressure and with stuff you have to deal with. And then, when you have an album 12 years ago titled Time One, and obviously people that were a fan of you back then knew that you were already working on Time Two. But looking back, knowing what you know now, that it would take 12 years to get this done. Have you ever does it feel like there's a massive weight off your shoulders right now? Do you sometimes feel like I wish I hadn't called it Time One to begin with, to not give myself that pressure that this had to happen at some point?
Yeah, it's definitely a big pressure off my shoulders, and I don't know, the calling the album originally Time was kind of just accident. I had no idea it's gonna take this long to do the whole two-part thing. Well, originally it was just the one Time album, but then we split it. Obviously, people know pretty much the story already.
Yeah.
But it was just an accident that it took this long. Just technical problems and a lack of resources and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And of course, we did a lot of other things. Meanwhile, before finishing Time Two, so there was one album before that. So
I know.
It wasn't like I spent all this time, just working on the album.
Of course. It's not quite Chinese democracy, if you will. Today, the world of producing music is very different than 12 years ago, and compared to 22 years ago, it's significantly different. Does that mean that you also, that now with the technology that's available today, that things have changed quite a bit? Like, how different is Time Two today versus what you initially started working on all those years ago? Like, how has that changed?
I mean, it's pretty close to what I originally envisioned in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that I finally got to that point. But the music technology, all the audio plugins and software have developed a lot, and that actually enabled me to finally mix and master this album. And also, of course, back in the day, during the 2008 to 2011, while I was working the orchestrations and synths for these albums, that was the hardest part. And of course, the vocals, I took more time than I usually. Usually, it's been just like you record the vocals in a week or two in a studio. But for these albums, I wanted to record the vocals in various rehearsal places with just my own vocal gear and a laptop. Kind of like two reasons: to save money and also to get better vocal performances, because I feel like I needed to practice more and develop my voice for these albums. For the mixing and mastering, a lot of the audio plugins have developed a lot in the last 10 years. And also, the other thing was that we did the Indiegogo campaign with the Forest Seasons album. So I was able to get this new semi-studio what I have. So also because of that, the support of the fans, I was able to mix the album in a better place, so I could actually hear what I'm doing, because my last home studio apartment was like a really small, very bad acoustic treatment. wrong size monitors for the room, so I really couldn't hear and know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Also, I guess my skills have developed also. But yeah, I think, but mainly the plugins are the thing, and also the computer power was also one of the reasons that enabled me to finally mix these albums. You know, the time one mix was like very compromised. I could only use like few plugins, like one EQ per track, and you know, that's it. So and there was a lot of grouping tracks. I wanted to mix it more like detailed, but I couldn't back then. But now I could finally do it like that. There is Time 1 2.0 coming with the Time package. We did another second Indiegogo campaign this spring, and we did this April surprise, and we revealed that also I mixed Time 1 again, and it's gonna have the same sound as Time 2. So now you can listen both albums back to back with the same sound. Yeah. So now it's finally the whole chapter is complete and done with. I'm moving forward. Never again.
So is because I mean, people that love your band also know that Wintersun has never been a band that releases a lot all the time. It's it's more like good things come to those who wait kind of thing, because of obviously the complexity of the music, the technology required, just the level of work that has to go into that. You say now never again. Does that mean that you want to change that as well for this band, with also knowing obviously that everybody involved has conflicting schedules and what have you, because everybody is involved with so many projects and bands these days. But what does the future then look like for Wintersun? Like, should we all of a sudden expect an album every 2-3 years from you?
Well, I'm not gonna promise anything, but I've been working 4 different albums since the pandemic started. And in this new semi-studio, I was able to work really quickly. Of course, always more computer power would be needed, but I was able to get one album pretty close to being finished, and I'm excited to continue that.
Yeah.
I think what was the question you asked? But yeah, it just depends on the album, like what kind of album is, how many tracks there are, how many layers there are, and my thing has always been to with Wintersun to do a lot of different kinds of albums. Some albums might have like big orchestrations, some might not.
Yeah.
For example, the Forest Seasons was quite a different album with the whole production, the whole sound, and that's what I'm going to do in the future, like experiment with different music styles.
Okay.
And explore different composition, melody styles, and and production styles. But yeah, for example, the Forest Seasons, I made that album in 9 months from start to finish. But Time 1 and 2 is a whole different story. And in the
slightly
in the future albums, what I've been working on, it's still gonna be big. Like in the Time 1 and 2 albums, the biggest tracks had like over 1,000 tracks.
Yeah.
But now with the next project, it might be something like 500 to 800. But I've been able to get, because the sample libraries, the orchestration sounds have been gotten way better these days. So I haven't had to do so much like layering, and I haven't had to use as many tracks what I wanted to for the time albums. So I've been able to get that big sound with less tracks. So the next album is probably gonna be very big also, but then again, there's other albums that might be different. Who knows?
Yeah.
There's probably some people that are expecting us to tour, but I made the decision that there needs to be more Wintersun music in the world and in the Wintersun discographic, because we have been making so few albums because of these technical problems. So for this time around, we're still going to continue our touring break, and then we'll see what the situation, especially with the guys, because they also play in different bands. So with the next album, we'll see what the situation is. But yeah, for time albums, I would say for the first album, I really didn't think about how would we play these songs ever live. Because the first album was even like, I wasn't even thinking live at the moment. Mm-hmm. It was kind of just my solo album that I was like excited to do. But then on time 1 and 2, I started more thinking about, because we formed like a full band, I started a little bit thinking in my back of my mind, like how would these songs work live, and how would we be able to do them. But still, always when I'm working on an album, I tend to not want to think about the live situation. I just want to do the album the best I can, and the best as it works as an album. And then we'll think about the live arrangements later, and how we will, do those.
Yeah. Well, I saw you play in Toronto in 2012 in the Uprise with the tour of Eloviti, I believe it was. And
right.
Of this new album, I'll keep my fingers crossed that one day I get to hear Silver Leaves, because that for me, that the closing song, I think it's the closing song. For me, it definitely is the highlight of the album, and I hope I'll get to see a version of that. If you ever figure out how a band can play that live, I'd love to see that. So
yeah, definitely, I want to play that song also live someday.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner than later. We'll see.
You mentioned, you've got 4 albums that you've started working on. One sounds to be getting close to completion. No touring for the time being. So this album is going to be out soon. What can we then expect from you? Like, what does your immediate future look like?
Well, after this release, hula balo, or what you would call it, I'm just gonna go back into silence and work on the next album as quick as possible. And of course, I'm still gonna do some social media updates here and there, and we'll see. But I'm really excited about the new stuff. I've been actually this time to release is kind of surprise to me as well.
Yeah.
So it could have been either way, the other album or time 2. Okay. But the other album was still like, I wasn't like fully satisfied with the sound for that album. It was like I needed for that album the sound to be more heavier and harder. Mm-hmm. But that sound was still good. And then I kind of took that sound, like I got this idea, would this work on time 2? And I started kind of copy pasting the sound. It didn't immediately like work, but after working on it for a couple of weeks, things just started to click, and like I was, holy shit, I guess it's finally time to mix this album.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I am glad that you have all this other stuff that you can now start to focus on, because I think many of us in the community were afraid that after completing the Time albums, after 24 years or so in the making, that you would fall into a big black hole with like, what now? So I'm really excited to hear that there's more stuff coming.
Well, it's always kind of been my workflow. I always have working on many different projects. And at some point, just one of the projects is starting to get like close to being finished, and then I focus on that.
I can't wait for all your fans to fully listen to the album. That I obviously had a chance to do so, and was very excited to listen to the album. So I can't wait for the album to be out. I know all those fans will yell very loud that they want to see it live and sooner rather than later, but we'll just all have to be patient until more work is out, and we'll catch up when you can talk more about the upcoming album. Thank you so much for it today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet. Like we're not going to tour, but then the next album will come faster, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because I felt like after we stopped touring in 2020, and there was like, we toured 3 years, then people were already breathing down my neck like, where's the new album? So that's also the reason why after this release I want to immediately get back on working on the next album.
Well, we'll just all have to respect your work style, and especially if that means that more music is going to come soon. All the fans will appreciate that. Thank you so much. Excited about the release and excited about what's coming next. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope a lot of creativity happens in that room very soon.
All right. Thank you very much, man.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.